So last class we saw the first 4 shlokas in Bhakti Yoga, and most importantly I think this idea of Saguna and Nirguna, and the question that Arjuna asked in the beginning of the chapter, is Saguna Upasana better or Nirguna Upasana better, is more a question for us to know rather than, I think many questions in Bhagavad Gita are like that, and for which Sri Krishna immediately replied. He said, both are good, both ways you can reach me, however Saguna Upasana is good. Very similar to what we saw in chapter 5. Karma sannyasa or karma yoga. He said karma yoga. Karma sannyasa karma yoga visishyate. Very similar approach. And in the first 4 shlokas of chapter 12, he did reason out why. And the most important message is kleshaha adhikataraha tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavid abhijayate. The deha abhimana is a very, very important, very, very deep issue. And unless we cross that hurdle, Nirguna Upasana is only theory. It is not possible. That message he brought very clearly in the, we saw so much. So in the first 4 shlokas, Sri Krishna replied, said both are good. And in the 5th shloka, although I have put it here, in the 5th shloka, he said kleshaha adhikataraha tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. And why? Because of Adhyatma Dehavid abhijayate. That's what he says. In fact, Deha Atma Sambandha or Abhimana, that is a very, very serious issue. That is not an issue which we can just like that ignore. And as long as we have this Dehatma Abhimana, Nirguna Upasana is very difficult. Avyakta hi gatir dukkham is what he says. It's ridden with a lot of challenges. Therefore, Saguna Upasana is good. So I just want to talk about what is this Dehatma Abhimana, because it is very, very important. So basically, just we will step one step behind and leave these ideas for a moment. Just think about ourselves. See, all of us, notwithstanding whatever background we have, our ultimate goal in life is to have sense of fulfillment and peace and contentment. I don't think people are going to really contest on that. We may not even state it explicitly, but implicitly that is what all of us want. At the end of the day, we want to be very contented. We want to be peaceful, very, tranquil. This is our goal. On this goal, nobody differs. In fact, very little discussion is required to actually agree or disagree. Everybody will agree. But what happens is the way we pursue this is where the challenge is. While our goals are no different, but what happens is we use some methods and tend to think that if you pursue that method, this ultimate goal of peace, contentment and tranquility and all that, manaha samadhiyatam, that kind of a feeling we will get. That is where we differ. We are not at all differing on the goal. Now, these approaches are different. And so we replace this goal with another goal. That's what we do. We think solving this problem is the same as solving another problem by stating another goal. And that we all state the goal differently. One person thinks if you earn a lot of money, you will have actually security, peace, fulfillment. This is, some people replace that goal with this goal and then start pursuing that in life. Some other person thinks that, you become very famous, then this goal of that will be served. These are all working. We may not have explicit, but somewhere that is what is working. A third person may say, no, you have to become very powerful, whatever that term powerful means, maybe that solves that goal. So people take very different approaches, and the approaches differ because we think we can replace that original goal with another goal, and pursuing that indeed means pursuing the other one. This is basically that is what is happening. So that is why, although the goal appears to be fairly straightforward, very simple, we want to be peaceful, we want to be very happy in that sense of the term, while it looks so straightforward, how is it that we just seem to mess our life? So the explanation is we replace that goal with some other goal and think that solving that goal perhaps would also solve the other goal. And amongst all these examples that I have said, the most important thing is dominant thinking in most of us, unwittingly, is make a lot of money that will give us security and we'll be happy. Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, in 1813 he wrote a book, The World as Will and Representation. In German he wrote, in 1853 they translated first time into English and so on. I remember one, I have even quoted it a few times in my earlier classes. I remember one sentence in that. Schopenhauer says, now that men achieve security and welfare, what he means is you have enough money to take care. See, security means what? If you fall ill, can you be taken care? If you are alone, can somebody take care of you? For all that, we think money will do it. So that is the indirect meaning of that statement. Now that men achieved security and welfare, he has solved all other problems, he become a problem himself. So this is what he said. Essentially what he means is, this assumption that if you make a lot of money which will make you peaceful is not necessarily true. But with these competing assumptions, when we take these, and you may ask, why did we take these assumptions? Again, one can question, why did we take these assumptions? We take these assumptions because that is where Deha Atma Sambandha comes. It's very hard for us to say Deham, Naham, Koham, Soham. It is much easier to say one sentence and go away. You can intellectually understand the meaning of it. That's not what it is. In our practice, in the way we do things, are we able to say Deham, Naham? Maybe don't. It's a very tough challenge. So this Deha Sambandha, Deha Atma Abhimana is what leaves a lot of challenges in life. That is what Sri Krishna is talking there. And that's why he says, we are very average, a vast majority of our average, we are on the path of evolution. Don't jump to that. Now, if this Deha Atma Sambandha comes, and if we try to say, we'll organize the life like that, and this Dehatma Sambandha is something which is very hard for us to get out of, that leads to certain paradigms in life. If you ask why these paradigms came, they came because of this streak of thinking. We started saying everybody wants peace. Then we said, no, let us not solve this goal, let's solve another goal. This goal solving is as good as solving the other goal. One assumption you make. Then the goals are different, so our assumptions are different, our approaches are different. And because of these kinds of assumptions, Dehatma Sambandha becomes stronger. So this is the root. And once you come through this path, then we organize life with certain paradigms. So I just want to talk about 4 paradigms of life. So anyway, as I was telling last class, 3 very important messages in this chapter. The first thing is Dehatma Buddhihi, or Dehatma Abhimanaha, about which I want to, we already saw it a little bit in 5th and 4th sloka. Little bit I want to talk, we have already covered it, because that is the biggest hurdle for Nirguna Upasana. Then Karma Palatyaga, today we will see some 4 again beautiful shlokas. Then the chapter ends with certain lakshanas of bhakta. And if you look at what they are, it basically at one level, Krishna is cautioning there are certain ways by which you can just dissipate your energy. A bhakta should never do that. So these are the 3 important messages. Now this Dehatma Abhimana, so we have it. It requires a great amount of thinking, great amount of conviction, and a few steps we have to take about many things that we do in life. Now, if we work with this Dehatma Abhimana, that invariably leads to 4 major paradigms of life. All these comes only because this Deha and the Atma are glued so strongly. We say Atma is equal to Deha. The whole Vedantic literature says Atma is not equal to Deha. Next chapter is exclusively focused on that. Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga. Vibhaga is Vibhajya. Separate karke. You separate it out and he has discussed. We don't think like that. We say Deha is equal to Atma. That is called Deha Abhimana. If we organize a life like that, that will lead us a few things. And they are all coming because of that. First paradigm is earning a lot of money will lead us to security and happiness. This is one assumption. Let's say Schopenhauer said, now that men achieved security and welfare, they become problem themselves. That kind of, and Ashoka, the great emperor, Alexander said, put my hands out in the coffin, because I want the whole world to know that the greatest emperor also will have to go empty-handed. When you leave, there is no money transfer possible. There's absolutely no money transfer possible in this mechanism. And that is why there is this German saying, which says the last shirt a person wears does not have a pocket. Which means, when you go, you can't carry anything. That's why the German saying says the last shirt that you wear does not have a pocket. That's what they say. So the first paradigm in life is we think, and this comes only because of Deha Atma, Abhimana. Right? But I must relate, there are lots of these things I keep thinking. For me, reading Gita is all the time thinking about many things, because that's the only way we can also become a little wiser. I just want to relate, I knew of a person. This person was 76 or 77. He was a widower. He had one daughter. The daughter is a widow and issueless. So now look at the combination. And the daughter's health is worse than the father's health. She may be about 50, 49, whatever, 20 years you can reduce. Father was 77, 78, and actually speaking, the daughter was not in good health. Maybe she had issues and so on. No issues. Husband is dead, so she is a widow. The father is a widower. One day I met, this happened several years back. I met them. So they hail from my same village. So I just told them something. I said, because I grew up for a good part of my life in a village. So I have this village psyche, I have a certain understanding of the village psyche. I hope that is still true. I keep going, but things could have changed a little bit. So one day I was conversing with him. I told him, Uncle, why don't you go to the village? Both of you go to the village. You will have a very peaceful life until you breathe your last. Because the biggest concern, in fact, that's the biggest concern for many of us. We think, as we get old, we will have a health issue. Think of the combination here. 2 people, nobody to take care. That's why I'm giving this idea. So this concern will be even more. So they were thinking all the time. So I told Uncle, what you should do. I was very casually saying, perhaps. I said, Uncle, you must go back to the village. Because whatever village I am aware of, village moral, social fabric is very thick. People will absolutely take care of you. Your quality of life will be good. So I had this conversation once I went to my place. I had this, their village was about 80 kilometers from Madurai, where I met this gentleman. I think they had some house, they disposed of everything, they went to the village. So once I went and met them in the village, they said, we are very happy. Both of them very peacefully. I think the father died first, not the daughter. The father died first. After 4 or 5 years, the daughter also died. But one thing that I heard from them and also heard from others is they did not have that kind of attention. So in other words, what I am saying, this Deha Atma Abhimana in our modern paradigm in city living, we run behind it for this reason. Maybe they took the courage. I would have made in their mind on that day, it might look silly. If I tell it, people might think it is silly also. I think, something happened in their mind, they went. And once I went and met, they said that was a good decision they took. I think the village took good care of them. Because even with the best of the medical facilities, if we had a person working with us, he was very close to two biggest hospitals, but he died. Because that help was required in about 30 seconds. That is 30 seconds unless you are in the hospital room bed and the doctor by your side. So I really do not know what it means. But we are all marching there thinking that it will give us security and happiness. So this is one paradigm. This is one example I gave. But lots of ideas in our life are somewhere hooked to this one paradigm with which we live. It comes mainly because of Deha, Atma, Abhimana. Second, we need to get everything here and now. Time is running out. And why is it coming? Because the moment you attach yourself with Deha, the prakriti of a Deha is that it should become from Yavana, Kaumara. In chapter 2 he has said, Kaumaram, Yavanam, Jara, everything will happen. Same thing he has said in chapter 2. So if you latch yourself to something which by its very nature, prakriti, swabhava, it should perish. And since we are attaching ourselves with that, then we feel that sense of urgency. Before it perishes, we have to sort out everything. Because Janma, Mrityu, in between Jara and Vyadi, these are the 4 milestones on which this body as a prakriti will move. So let us not get too worried about it. I mean, that's a prakriti visesha. How can we, think otherwise? That is why even Parikshit knew that he is going to die in 7 days. This Sukha Maharishi did not give him. He could have done some magic and then he could have postponed it by a few 100 or 1,000 years. Because, in Kathopanishad, that's what he says. This boy said, he said to Yama, you are impermanent. What are you talking about? I don't need any of those. Tell me about death. That's what these Nachiketas asked. You can extend it by a few years. So what was Parikshit told in 7 days in Bhagavatam? He was told your immortality has nothing to do with your Deha. If you attach yourself to Deha, then there is no, so immortality does not mean we remain forever. In cinematic things they show that kind of, mental mind. It's not that. Immortality's first lesson is you are not Deham Naham. That is the first lesson of immortality. But it's easier said than done. Since we attach it with Deha, then this will come, the time clock will come. That's why this is our second paradigm in life. In many things you think about it, we do this. Because this also happens because of Deha, Atma, Abhimana. Third, our judgment on all these matters, all the matters of success, how much time do I have, you can take all those universe of them. Our judgment in all these matters pertains only to sensory and physical faculties, because that is what we are associating ourselves with. Moment you say kshetra, next chapter is going to, the technical word is kshetra. Moment you attach yourself to kshetra, that means that's the only basis on which you can sense, measure, understand, comprehend, all that. So we are tying ourselves to that kind of a framework. So that is the third paradigm of life. And the fourth paradigm of life, which is again coming from that, is only the physical world outside matters. As though that's the only thing. There is nothing. That's why Adi Shankaracharya says, in Sadhana Sampath, he says, Iha Amutra Pala Viyoga. That's the first condition. Iha here, Amutra elsewhere. He doesn't want to waste his time where? He says, this soul, he knows this soul quit this body. It went somewhere. Maybe it took the body later. So he has put all of them as somewhere. He says, Iha Amutra Pala Viragaha. That's the first condition. So, whereas we are not even able to go up to that other. Some people are little more worldly, so they do all karmas thinking of Swarga. That is a broad conceptualization of the other. Otherwise, we are still very much governed by now and here and this. All these actually, if we repeatedly reflect, that's coming from here. So if we can't touch this, it's a slow process. We need to, it is so tight, we need to loosen it little bit. So it's all very slow processes. Let us not say tomorrow morning we get a complete, we become avadhuta or something. I'm not at all saying that. I am saying these tags are there, these things, chains are around us very tightly. We have to struggle to get out of it. That's the first step to get out of it. We have to struggle. If we don't struggle and understand that this is really binding us, there is no way. We will endlessly keep doing this. So that is why he said that kleshaha adhikataraha tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. So don't look at that. There are certain prerequisites for you to do Nirguna Upasana. And the rest of the chapter exactly follows. So this is Shloka 5. So Shloka 6 to 12, he actually takes us through Saguna. Because that is a very natural step for us. Let's do Saguna. And a time comes when we have mastered the Saguna. He gives 4 methods, we'll see it. Once we do that, then we can go to actually Nirguna. So that is a very nice thing that we will see. Now I was just thinking, this is a chapter on Bhakti, so I was just wondering, how do we actually sense how much of Bhakti we have gathered? Or what is this index for Bhakti? Is it sporting a nice, some linga on your forehead or on the body or something more? It's a very natural question. So I thought of some 6-7 things I just wanted to share with you, because these are all, generally I've been thinking. There are many ways I personally feel we can measure our yardstick on the path of Bhakti. This is a chapter on Bhakti Yoga, so let us little bit talk about it. First thing, if somebody says I am doing Bhakti, and the more and more I am doing Bhakti, it appears to me that that person should have developed an ability to broaden the understanding of the reality, which means Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara cannot be in 3 compartments. We may start like that. Slowly the compartments must start giving way. That's what in Vibhuti and Virati he was trying to also point us to in that direction. So one index for Bhakti is, this year my understanding of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Next year my understanding of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, if that difference is narrowed down, that means I have traveled on the path of Bhakti. The more I am able to narrow down, whatever that narrow down means, I have definitely traveled on the path of Bhakti. This is one index. Second, while being very active in the world outside, right, physically, we have to be very active. The greatness of Bhagavad Gita is, it is not asking you to sit. Mato sangastu akarmani. That's why he said, in Sangha you cannot be without work. Karmanyeva adhikaraha mahapaleshu kadachana ma karma pala heturbuhu. Then the last thing he said, mate sangastu akarmani. You can't be in a society without doing work. That's the greatness of this text. So it's all about working only, not running away to some other place and so on. So while being very active in the world outside, physically, are we seeing in ourselves that we are slowly becoming less and less active emotionally? See, there are 2 different things. One can be physically very active, but one can be emotionally a little less active. It's very much possible. That is, to me, another index for Bhakti. Definitely, I believe somebody covers ground on it, he is becoming a Bhakta. Because last 8 shlokas are going to actually talk only this in different ways. That's why I am talking about it now. Third, developing a great sense of inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness. This is the biggest villain I see in common parlance Bhakti. In common parlance Bhakti, it is all about being exclusive. One group, one set of people who consider they are superior to others. That's not at all Bhakti. Bhakti, this is related to the first point. Broadening the understanding of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is what? It means, are you becoming more inclusive in your understanding of life? If we become more and more exclusive in the name of Bhakti, please recheck and ask, where are you going? Because some Bhakti movements unwittingly take us there. Be very alert, because I am very convinced people becoming exclusive are not Bhaktas. They are actually traveling in the wrong direction. One has to be inclusive. I mean, initially it can happen, but we need to be very aware. Somewhere that Viveka must come. Otherwise, I find this is the biggest challenge in bhakti. The moment I say I am a so-and-so bhakta, I mean, you are already saying I am better than others. We are a very special class. Others are not. I find a lot of such things happen. This entire fight between these sections are of that category. They are people at a lower level. I mean, I'm not talking ill of them. I am saying they are yet to be evolved. It is not possible that you develop exclusiveness and become a bhakta. You will become inclusive. And again, these terms are heavy terms. Inclusive can be many things. There are many ways you can become inclusive. In fact, there are several experiences. I've been experimenting with some of these. You can become inclusive with the plant kingdom. You can become inclusive with the animal kingdom. You can become inclusive with other sections of people. I mean, there is no end to this trajectory. True bhakta will be able, because the first condition he is going to say is Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. That's the first point he is going to make. Where will be Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam will come without inclusiveness. If you don't have inclusiveness, where is Sarva Bhutanam Adveshta is going to happen? It will never happen. Krishna is going to use some nice descriptions. Some of this we know. He is only putting it back. So that is the third. Fourth index to call oneself that I am traveling in the road of bhakti is we should be able to begin. Begin meaning begin and then travel a little bit, step by step. One baby step is enough. Begin to focus on the world within. That's why Shankaracharya said, Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhaktihi iti abhidhiyate. Ultimate bhakti is you discover that world of oneness inside. Not outside. It is inside. So, have we in our own way started understanding there is a world within? Have we started a little bit trying to focus on it? That's another index of bhakta. Fifth, become more and more peaceful. A person who is agitated for whatever reason, in my opinion, is at the LKG of bhakti. Again, it's all proportions. If I get agitated for all and sundry, from there some sundry items are removed, I have travelled on the path of bhakti, I can tell you for sure. These are all real indicators. You should be able to get the Shama Damadi Sadhana Sampat will happen only through bhakti. So bhakti is not just the chinnas and the exclusivity and saying Ekarupa, Upasana and all others are used. There's a lot of fight going on like that. They are not bhakti. Lastly, one other thing which I think is we should be able to become more and more reflective, making heart-filling choices rather than intellectually satisfying choices. So there are two ways we can make choices in life. One is called heart-filling. Another is called intellectually satisfying. You can satisfy the brain or you can satisfy the heart. There are two positions from which you can operate. So it all depends. Last year I ran a full course on Bhagavad Gita. I had a real stunning experience because this idea I have been telling in the class. I have been telling my students that there is something called brain and there is something called heart. You should never operate from the position of brain. You should learn to operate from the position of heart. You will make very strong decisions. All that, even in a management parlance I was talking, because that course was called Management Paradigms in Bhagavad Gita. Then I realized this was not going too far. They were not appreciating what I was saying. So I came with an idea. What I did was I picked two videos. See, nowadays teaching is far, far effective according to me. I use a lot of videos in my Bhagavad Gita course, YouTube videos. So I took two YouTube videos and I put the two videos and set up a Google Docs. I sent a mail to my students. I said, you are supposed to watch the first video, and as soon as you watch the first video, you fill in 3 questions. Then you watch the second video, then fill in the 3 questions and then post it. So I had 53 students and 42 students actually did that. The videos are as follows. First video was 7 minutes. Some of you would have actually seen it. There is one Chinese lady who is doing an astonishing job of balancing. She starts with a small feather kind of a thing and keeps on adding bigger and bigger blades, bigger wooden blades. She is rotating and picking and putting one over the other. It's an astonishing piece of how she is balancing. It's about 7 minutes. So I showed, that was the first video. And I had 3 questions. First question is, describe this video with minimum number of phrases. For example, I told them, if it is an amazing video, you say amazing, video is understood. Use the minimum words. I gave an example like this. I said, use 1 or 2 phrases, don't strain too much. Just put 1 or 2 phrases and describe this video. So I said. Second sentence is, what did you want to do? The second question was, which part of your body was affected? I said brain, heart, none of the above. I didn't give any other, because I was trying to get this idea to them. I said none of the above. I gave 3 options. I said you drop down, you can select only 1 of the 3. Third question is, as soon as you saw the video, was there urge for you to do something? Write 1 sentence. Same questions for the second video also. Second video is a 3-minute video. There is a husband and wife standing on the seashore, and there are about 30 kids around them. They are saying, they are all my kids, all that. About 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes, 1 minute 40 minutes, seconds have gone in the video. Then they make a statement, we lost both our child in front of us in the tsunami in this place. In return, we got these 32 kids. Until they said that, they were bubbling with joy. But when they made that statement, there was a trace of sorrow in their face. But then they, I think, managed to get back to, they were very enthusiastically talking about these 32 kids. And they said, we lost 2, but God gave us 32, something like that they said. That was the second video. I said, can you answer? So next day I actually opened and saw. I thought I had no more to talk. I just shared the Google Docs with them. 43 on 43 for the second video said it affected our heart. And 42 out of 43 for the first video said it affected our brain. And the words they used on the first video, they said talent, amazing, astonishing, that kind of words. They're all words which generally we associate with brain, not with heart. Here they use very different words. Somebody said, I hugged my child, I cried. One fellow said, so I asked, what are you going to do? One fellow said, this weekend I am going to that place. If I had had a meter with which I could have actually measured the force of the statements, for the second video the needle would have gone. That much force was there. When they described what did you want to do at that moment, that is what I mean here. I am saying a bhakta will make heart-filling choices, not intellectually satisfying. We all start with intellectually satisfying choices. If we have wisdom, if we grow in life, if we outgrow ourselves in life, the proportion of that will come down. The sooner we make, the greater as a person we will be. Yes. How do we? Okay, so yeah, very good. So first of all, you please understand Atma in Bhagavad Gita. Atmaiva bandhuhu atmanam atmaiva ripuratmanaha. There Atma means mind. Uddaret atmana atmanam na atmanam avashadayet. There Atma means mind, not the soul. So in the same way, we have to understand contextually the terms. That's why we have to critically understand the shlokas. You can't say Atma means soul. Therefore Atmaiva bandhuhu atmanam atmaiva rupuratmana cannot be understood like that. So in the same way, buddhim tu sharatim viddhi, which is the 42nd shloka in chapter 3. It's a very nice shloka which I have talked about. The point is, if I have to go a little more detail, there are 3 positions in our decision making mechanism, if I had to use a word like that. There is heart, there is mind, and there is a buddhi. Now what is the role of buddhi? Buddhi is a simple processor. Buddhi will give all the inputs. There's a beggar on the house knocking the door asking for alms. Buddhi will give 100 signals. It will say you can give him. You can say giving is good. It will say if you give he will come tomorrow. He can create a problem. It is a neutral entity which will process and give you all those set of ideas. Right? Now, how do we make the decision? That's where whether you operate from the mind or you operate from the heart. So when I say intellectually taking decision, heart-filling decision, what I really meant was the mind was more interested in these kind of issues that, if you give him, he'll come tomorrow, giving, he'll create trouble, 4 more fellows will come, we'll end up only giving. These are all analytical ways of understanding the same thing. So there buddhi actually means different. There buddhi means that in that sloka, buddhi actually must point to the heart correctly to understand that sloka. So we'll have to little bit understand it differently. Because the words are used in the context. Essentially there what Krishna is saying is Indriyani paranyahu indriyasya dehe paramanaha. That's what he said. That is the 42nd sloka. It says, don't let everything to the indriyas. Compared to indriyas, manas is better. Compared to manas, buddhi is better. Which is true. But that shloka was not operating from this mechanism of decision making. It says, it has the ability to see nitya, anitya, everything and give everything to you. From that perspective, it is superior. When you analyze it from a perspective of decision making, then you have to bring these 3 positions and then operate it. I think that's how it is. Okay, so therefore, Dehatma Abhimana is a very serious thing. Our life choices are organized around it. That's why Krishna said, Kleshaha adhikataraha desham. Abhyakta sakta chesasam, abhyakta higatir dukkam. That's what he said. Dehoit abhijayate. That's what he said. Therefore, the rest of the chapter is organized as follows. So, with this, the question is answered, and the answer is also justifying why I said Saguna Upasana is better, not necessarily Nirguna Upasana. He is partly given the answer. Now, the rest of the chapter flows in this fashion. He knows now that for a vast majority of us, Saguna Upasana is what makes a lot of sense. So, therefore, Krishna has concentrated on how do we go about that process. So that is what we will see in the next 4 slokas. As a preamble to that, see, we should understand, as long as we see differences, it is ajnana. It can be Allah, Rama, Krishna, Christ. It can be I, the Triputi. Drishyam, Drik, and Sadhaka, Sadhana, Sadhya. As long as you see differences, we are still in the plane of ajnana. When get into jnana, everything disappears. Abheda is a property of jnana. That is just a point of release. There is no point in talking about it. There is a lot of merit in talking about how do you go there. Because once you go there, when the threshold is reached, that escape velocity is there, and that's the end of the story. So therefore the merit is talking about how do you reach there. So the rest of the chapter is actually focusing only on that. How do you develop that kind of threshold that you get that escape velocity and then you escape? Because once you get, that's why he says jnana mayaha, prajnana ganam. You are nothing but bundle of jnana. So there is no difference. So as long as we see differences, which we are all seeing, we are seeing all kinds of differences at all levels, we are still in the path of ajnana. That is why this part has to be managed. This part has to be managed in such a way that these differences narrow, that when that critical mass is, or the critical point is reached, the jnana, you become prajnanamaya. That is the approach Vedanta has taken, Upanishads, all of them have taken that approach. That's why whole emphasis is how do you manage this path. So Bhakti Yoga is this path. How do we get out of this multiplicity into that oneness? So he talks about 4 ways. So we'll see 8, 9, 10, 11 in which there are 4 ways he talks about. He says, Mayyeva mana adastva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, Nivasishyasi mayyeva atha urdhvam nasamshayaha. So the first method he says, you rest yourself, your buddhi, your mind, intellect, everything on me. Fix only on me, nowhere else. Single pointed focus of your mind, buddhi, everything on me. Mayeva, manaha adasva. Manas and the buddhi. Which means all that you are doing, if you can reach a stage where you come to that level that you are doing it only for me, only because of me and only for me, that level. If you can reach that stage, then what does he say? He says, Nivasasi mayeva, you will be with me, you will reside in me only. Atha urdhvam na samshayaha. There is nothing more you need. You don't worry, this is what it is. In fact, that is exactly what Shuka Brahma did to Parikshit. How did he get mortality? He won this fear of death of this mortal body. That is mortality, immortality. Immortality is not a weird idea. Immortality is that frame of mind in which you say this body, id and are okay. That is the real medicine. It is not doing some magic that you live for another 100 years or 1000 years. It is you transcend your level of thinking and your consciousness to that level where you say, all these are not me. Therefore, if it falls, let it fall. That is real immortality. So, it is completely transmuting our understanding of reality. That is what in the same way he says, if you can transmute your reality to such a level that you are doing everything for me only, so your manas and buddhi are all focused only on me, you will reach me only. This is one method, is what he says. It is the first method he spoke. Then he says, Ata, otherwise, Chittam samadhatum na saknoshi mayi stiram, okay, Abhyasa yogena tato mam ichchaptum dhananjaya. He says, Ata, otherwise, or, right, Chittam samadhatum mayi stiram chittam samadhatum na saknoshi. He says, no, I have not reached there. I am not of that material. I haven't gone that far. Manas chanchalata is very common for us. He says, this man says, no, sir, what you are saying is good, but I can't do it. I cannot fix my mind. Fixing my mind is long years of dhyana. There's a lot of effort required before we go there. So that's for Krishna has recognized that possibility that this cannot be, this is the greatness of Indian texts. We are missing that point. The greatness of Indian text is it will not say one way of doing things. It will not say one God, one way, nothing of that kind. Ye yata mam prapadyante tamstateva bhajamyaham. Whichever way they come to me, I manifest myself to them in that way. It is actually, it is like my sap. This is exactly like my bhakti now. Like my sap. Today they say, you can customize the sap to yourself. So our Indian Vedanta is my Vedanta. We have thought about it long back. This is my bhakti now he is talking. Because you can pick and choose what you want. That is what these people are talking now in the last 10 years. That is what is the greatness of Indian text. It never forces you on something. However, what it will do is, A has this consequence, it has these prerequisites, B has this consequence, this has prerequisites, C has this consequence, this prerequisite. If you ask me, I think A is better than B. That's all they will say. They will not even say, therefore you should do only A. Nowhere you will find such statements. So we are very pragmatic. We are, this culture is like that. So he says, Ata chittam samadhatum na saknoshi mayistiram. You say, no, I can't, I have not reached that level. Okay, now I will give you another method. You can't do it. Let me tell you now. Abhyasa yogena tato mam ichchaptum. Do abhyasa. That abhyasa will only take you to that stage. So now if you are not there, do this. You just do abhyasa yoga. What is abhyasa yoga? Manastiram karaniyam tateva abhyasa. Can you fix your mind? That's why the entire chapter 6 will come, Dhyana Yoga. That's why he talked about mind. Uddharet atmana atmanam na atmanam avasade. What did he say? He said mind is the vehicle with which you have to bootstrap. You have to use the mind and make mind irrelevant. Or not mind control you. You go beyond it. That can be done only by dhyana, some abhyasa. That's why he says abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balavadradam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. Same question. Stiram is what he said. Chanchalam, that's what he said. Asamshayam mahabaho manas durnigraham chalam. Krishna, I agreed. I agree 100% with you. Asamshayam mahabaho, there is no doubt. What you said is right. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chagrihyate. That abhyasa is what he is talking here. You make effort. You make effort. It's a slow effort. Slowly you will be able to fix. It takes time. So he says, oh, you are not able to do it. All right, do this. He says, Abhyasa yogena tataha mam icha aptum dhananjaya. Develop that desire to reach me through Abhyasa yoga, you will be able to do it. So, method 2, he has said. Now you say, even I am not ready for it. Because some people can't do it. Huh? No, Abhyasa yoga, instead of looking at the technical word, the point, you need to do Abhyasa because that is the only way you can fix your mind. Otherwise, the mind is very wavering. You sit and close your eyes. You don't do Dhyana and all that. You sit and close your eyes. The whole world will come in front of you. And you know how this mind will work? Even if you think you reduce everything, one bell sound you heard, there are 1,000 events of bell in your life which will come to your mind. The other day I went and rang the bell in the temple. In that movie, that bell sound was very good. This is the job of mind. So, Abhyasa yoga is a method by which this mind, which is oscillating or vibrating at 1,000 frames per second, bring it to 1 and make it 0. So technically it has several meanings, but let us understand the Tatparya, the Lakshyartha, not the Vachyartha. Vachyartha, let us not worry. Lakshyartha we will see. Lakshyartha is, by Abhyasa, you will be able to do this that you are not able to do. Samadhatum stiram na shakyate?
Practice of yoga.
Na shaknomi? He said, Chittam samadhatum na shaknomi stiram. To achieve that is this. Can you, here again Chitta, we have to contextually take the meaning. Chitta means mind in this context. In some other context, it can be just the memory. Right?
Yes, there is practice.
Yeah, so it is a repeated practice for what? Repeated practice to tell this mind, park yourself, don't run all over the place. Park yourself. You have to tell the mind. Otherwise, it has a habit of running all the time.
Basically, to concentrate. When you used to do asanas, that's what it will end up.
So essentially, by doing all that, you are reducing these vibrations that is going in your mind. That is the Abhyasa yoga. So let's not, technically we could have seen it in 6th chapter and all that. Then he says, Abhyasepya samartosi mat karma paramo bhava madartamapi karmani kurvan siddhim avapsesi. So then he says, you can't do Abhyasa, you have not reached there. Don't worry, I will give you one more method now. And what is that method? Abhyasaha api asamartaha asi. Sir, I cannot even do Abhyasa. I am at that level. I am not, because some people are very agitated. I mean, it's all different stages, no? It is possible. He says, no, I can't do Abhyasa. Abhyasaha api asamartaha asi. Here it is a Madhyama Purusha, you, implied, Tvam asi. You are like that. So I will tell you, Mat karma paramo bhava. Then you do one thing, don't worry about all that. Whatever work you do, you say that I am doing for in the name of God. Try that. Whatever you do in the name of God. That's the next step he says. Do that. Forget about all the Abhyasa, Manas, Chitta and Mayarpita Buddhi and all heavy stuff. Leave it. You are engaging in activities. You have a simple practice. You say that whatever I do, I am doing in the name of God. Can you develop that kind of attitude? Is the third method he says. And he says, Madartamapi karmani. So by doing work for my sake, Madartamapi karmani kurvan is present continuous. By doing work in the name of me, he says, Siddhim avapsasi, you will reach. You will definitely reach. Definitely you will reach, is what he is saying. Kurvan siddhim avapsasi. So now he says, you can't do it. At least whatever work you do it in the name of God. You will reach me, I guarantee you. Don't worry about these complicated things. So that's the third. Now we say, I can't even do it. If you say that, because there's so much of mamakara and ahankara we have. I mean, God and all fine, but I want to do things for myself. God, one coconut, if he is lucky enough. Because if he, as per my contract, if he is satisfied, one coconut. That too, I find there are coconuts specifically available for that. 8 rupee, 9 rupee. You can't do anything with that. People are like that. Artha, in chapter 7 he said, Artha, Artharthi, Jignasa and Jnani, 4 types of bhaktas. Chaturvitaha bhaktaha. So the material I am talking about is called Arthas. Arthas are those who are mentally agitated. They are distressed. When you are mentally distressed, the notion of God appears brightly in front of you. Once that is over, the God is gone. I mean, people can be like that. I mean, I am not talking ill of any of those. The greatness of Indian culture and the literature is, it has looked at all possibilities. Please appreciate it from that perspective. Again, if you moment you look down and all that, the notion of bhakta is gone. That's what I just now said. Don't feel inferior, superior. People are all at different levels here. Let's go. It is inclusiveness. It is not exclusiveness. So he says, Madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim. See, if you can't do it, ata etat api ashaktaha. See, even this you say I can't do. Because people can be at different levels. People can be at different levels. Who said we can't be at different levels? Please give me a prescription which can fit anyone. Not just those very, celebrated people who have some super brain, so it's only for them. Rest are all go to hell, I don't know. Never like that. This culture and this tradition, this literature, this spirit is never of that kind. That's why it says, Ataitat apyashaktosi kartum madhyogam sarva karma palatyagam tataha kuru yatatmavan. He says, Ata etat api ashaktaha asi. You say, no sir, I can't even do that. Somehow I want to do things I am not able to say, in the name of God I am not able to do. I have not reached that maturity yet. He says, that's all right. When fruits come, fruits of action, you do, thinking, you have to do for yourself and so on. But fruits is a dice. You don't know which way the die is thrown. You may think you are controlling everything, but that only shows your level of, childishness in understanding reality. Honestly, it is a very childish behavior. Because the God throws the dice, the die falls whichever way it falls. At best what you can do is you can have unexplained variance, R square, all that you can do. That is a modern approach to understand this principle. Regression, R square, unexplained variance, probability of something happening. These are all, we don't know how to explain it. Actually what it says is there is a God throwing the dice. So when results come, can you at least give the result to me? Krishna arpanamastu. Can you do it? That is the lowest. Looks like that is the lowest. Right? So he talks about 4 methods. And the 4 methods are Saguna Upasana. Let me first of all tell you, nothing is inferior. There is a feeling that, we have now reached the lowest level. Because these are all, our mind is always trained to this exclusivity, differences. That's why we may think like that. Now, Swami Dayananda so beautifully writes. He says, if aspirin is allergic to you for your headache, I will give you paracetamol. Don't think aspirin is inferior. He uses a sentence like that. I was reading his book. He says that just because aspirin is allergic to you and for your headache I gave you paracetamol, don't ever come to the conclusion aspirin is inferior to paracetamol. I mean, it just doesn't suit you. Period. Don't try to infer anything more than that. It's like that. So it's not inferior, superior. The point is, as long as we have, that's why I said Beda and Abeda. As long as we are in a domain of Beda, we see differences. These are all coming out of that. As long as we are in a domain of Beda, until we reach Abeda, we need some method of Antakarana Shuddhi. How does the Abeda comes? The inner world must become pure. The technical word is Antakarana Shuddhi. Antakarana Shuddhi, so there are methods. Depending upon where you can take, you can take. That is all it actually is trying to convey.
So what was the first one? Just go back.
No, you will ask this. That's why I put all of them in another. My daughter says, Appa, you always put nice dabbas and arrows. So I brought one more dabba and arrow. These are the four. First he said, Mayeva maya adastva, mayi buddhim niveshaya. Otherwise you can't do it, Abhyasa yogena. If you can't do it, mat karma paramo bhava. In the name of me, do the work. You can't do it, karma pala tyagaha. Right? Now look at, there is another logic to the whole thing. That's why I put it here. See, if you practice this, what will you get out of it? This notion of what is in it for me will go out. That is what will happen. When karma pala tyaga is done, you will do work that what is in it for me will recede to the background. You may say, why is it important? That is important because unless, I am telling you, this is something which you have to verify in your personal life. Unless you recede the what is in it for me to the background, your life will have only raga and dvesha. You cannot escape from this world of duality. Aversion and attachment is part of this story. That is what Krishna is pointing to. Karma pala tyaga, if you do and keep doing karma, this world of duality will slip out of you. It will not affect you. It will exist, but it will not affect you. It's a question of whether this faculty called mind on which the signals are falling on, it will be like an exposed photographic film. It will become white. No patterns will be seen there. So by karma pala tyaga, you are exposing the film called mind. Mind is a film. This method is to expose the film, so none of the vasanas will be recorded. There is people of phenomenal memory. 42 years back, my mother-in-law did this, my father did this. Because the mind does it. We are like that. We are like that in life. Why? Because the raga dvesha is only putting those tags. And such a mind will never become a bhakta. Such a mind will not evolve. We are talking about, can we evolve? Become very pure? That is why Krishna is saying karma pala tyaga. Now, only when this what is in it for me loosens, you will be more than willing to say, I will do the job in the name of God. There is no difference between doing for me and doing in the name of God. That becomes a little easier. That becomes a workable idea now. So, in order to practice this, we have to practice this first. For a while. Right? So, know what is in it for me. Therefore, begin the practice of doing for the sake. That will be a very natural phenomenon. That will naturally evolve. Our mind will evolve like that. You'll say, I am not having what is in it for me, so let me do for the sake of God. That you will discover a pleasure of doing it in the name of God. Or for the sake of God, or in the name of God, which is what he was saying. Right? Now, if you are able to reasonably cover this ground, the chanchalata of the mind will dramatically come down. Without this, how can you actually bring down the vibrations of the mind? These are the ones which are creating the vibrations, no? If these are the ones creating vibrations, without attacking it, how are you going to attack this? This is like saying this, you have blood pressure, the doctor says run 2 kilometers. I will tell you, blood pressure is a mental problem and you cannot solve it with physical exercises. 100% I am telling you. Blood pressure is a mental condition. You cannot solve it. They say change your lifestyle. Change your lifestyle is a correct statement. But the lifestyle change they are saying is eat this food from tomorrow onwards. You walk for 1 kilometer, all that. If you don't attack your mind, your BP will never come down. So it's like that. Without addressing this, you cannot address this. I am very convinced that many of these allopathic, some of these prescriptions we need to take and we have to process ourselves. But I have blood pressure for the last 11 years. So from the beginning I thought, how can I run for 2 kilometers and my blood pressure will come down? So I was, thinking about it. Last 3-4 years, of course I am taking the pill every day, but the blood pressure is very much under control. My own understanding is the lifestyle change is not about eating. It's about your approach to taking things in life. Do you get agitated? Do you get worked up? Or you say, chalta hai. Chalta in the sense not in a udasina bhava of that kind, saying I will take what comes. That feeling. So that is what this is taking us. And do this, then actions don't taint you anymore. Mind is a little more purified. You are now ready for Abhyasa Yoga. That is possible now. If the conditions are a little more conducive, it's only making it a little more conducive. So then, with Abhyasa Yoga, over a time, the fixing of the mind will happen. This can happen. So essentially what is Krishna saying? Krishna is saying that find out which level you are in. So it's not inferior, superior. It is saying find out where you are. So that's why it's called my bhakti. Like my sap, this is my bhakti. You find out where you are. Start from there. And all roads lead unto me. So therefore you start from there and then move. Find out where you are and move, because at every stage you cross a certain hurdle. This is my understanding of, so it is not inferior, superior, it is only saying that find out where you are and align yourselves to that, then you will be able to cover the ground and move on.
My question is some different thinking about it. Say there are two things. If I start doing some bad, like taking bribe or something, and then I say I will contribute to God. So how I can, another thing is that I will, okay, my duty is I am doing for God, so I will not do it. So 3-4 activities there in a day, I will do because I am doing for God.
Correct.
How do you?
Yeah. So the first question is that I will take bribe and I also contribute, put it back a little bit to the God. That's one way. No.
Yeah, going in this path, I am doing for God.
Yes. So I will take bribe in the name of God, so therefore I will also give part of it to the God, or everything I do in the name of God. I mean, this is very nice to talk, but we will see it in the next chapter. There are 20 values we have. And one of the things we have to understand is, assuming we'll do it like that, right? I do a lot of mischief, but I say I'm doing in the name of God. What will happen is, there is an antaryami. You will be a split person. That can never be, you can never have a glue and stick it. Outwardly, all these you can say outwardly. The point is, when there is a value conflict, when you take a bribe, there is a value conflict, period. God, Ishvara, you write whatever you want to write after that. They are all, what is called Yamimam Pushpipa Vedaha, sort of flowery languages. The fact remains, when there is a value conflict, a personality is a split. I'll talk about half value and all that. That time maybe I will be able to a little bit. So the point that I need to say is, even if we start like that, right? And if we really meant the God part of it, that's why I say the Bhagavad Kripa will take you out of it. Until then it will be a worthless exercise. It may appear to be a worthless exercise, but the notion of God was very genuine, that Bhagavad Kripa will take you out of it.
I agree with the last part. You try, it won't happen.
It won't.
The situation will change that you will not be able to try.
So, it's all like that. I mean, it's all very important to think of all these possibilities, because we need to understand this issue, and that clarity will come. Then, in the 12th shloka, he said something. He says here, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat, jnana dhyanam visishyate, dhyanat karma palatyagaha, tyagat shantir anantaram. See, in the previous 4 shlokas, he did not really he said there are 4 methods. Depending upon what is possible for you, you do. Now I said that even when he said like that, I used a box and said it is a good idea to start from. That is coming in this. So some people think there is a reversal, there is a contradicting set of statements, because in the 4 shlokas earlier, because they are thinking that B is inferior to A, C is inferior to B, D is the most inferior. So for them, karma palatyaga is the most inferior, whereas in this shloka, karma palatyaga is the ultimate. Some people, I have read some commentaries where they bring such an argument. So first of all, the previous 4 are not inferior, superior. That's why I said, if you are allergic to aspirin, if you take paracetamol, aspirin is not inferior. Either you don't need it, or this will be more effective for you. It's as simple as that. So therefore, they are inferior and here they are superior. That such a kind of a split is not there. Point one. Point two, let's see, understand the spirit of, this is exactly saying the other dabba, which I showed. What is he saying? Shreya hai hi jnanam. Knowledge is superior to what? Abhyasa. What is better than Abhyasa is Jnana. First thing he says. Then he says, Jnana dhyanam visishyate. Deep meditation, contemplation is better than knowledge, Jnanam. Correct? Then he says, Dhyanat karma palatyagaha. Better than dhyanam is karma palatyaga. And finally he said, why did he say? He said, Tyagat shantihi anantaram. That's what he said, yes.
So the Abhyasa, what you mean here is not execution, right?
No.
It is not.
No. Not Abhyasa is not execution.
Anything falls under Abhyasa.
Broadly, Abhyasa is our ability to bring the mind under control. That is the broader intent of the word Abhyasa. Not the common parlance of effort or work tending to this. That kind of understand. So, look at what he is saying. First of all, he says, Jnanam is better than Abhyasa. It's very simple, na? I go to a temple and everybody went 3 rounds, so I also went 3 rounds, and then everybody, did a Sashtanga, I also did a Sashtanga. There are lots of things that we can do in life. I'm not even coming to the spiritual part of it. I'm saying, even in our regular, Vyavaharika, trying to do something without knowing why we are doing is very, very inferior. It's not very hard to argue. Trying to do something without why I am doing is, I don't know what is there. You will never be better off by doing it. Let's talk about the Vyavahara and then we'll go to the Paramarthika. Now the second part is, knowing as a piece of knowledge is one. Knowing it deeply by reflecting on it, doing a manana of it, testing it in our own mind, Shravana Manana Nididhyasa, they say, even in Upanishadic teaching, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that's what Maitri was told by Yajnavalkya. Bring it to our common parlance, knowledge is good. A knowledge which is reflected upon, contemplated and understood in its sukshma is much better. So these 3 trains are much easier. In Vedantic thought also it remains. Merely having a knowledge of that there is a Parabrahman, there is a Jiva, Ishvara, Aishwarya and all that, without that doing Abhyasa is a very meaningless, aimless effort. We do not even know, after putting so much effort, what are we doing for? This is common, whether you do Vyavahara or Paramarthika. That's why Jnanam is better than Abhyasa. This is also true. Jnana has to be, Shravana is just part, knowing it is just one part of it. That's why Jnana Vijnana Yoga, chapter 7. The Jnana must become Vijnana, then it becomes Prajnana Gana. Prajnana Gana is you are nothing but a bundle of consciousness, and that consciousness is nothing but that ultimate knowledge. That is the word Prajnana Gana. So Jnana should become Vijnana, and that is a realized knowledge. A realized knowledge comes only through dhyana, reflection, manana, checking the veracity of what it is, not as a piece of idea. Deha, Atma, Abhimana is a jnana for us. Now we need to do our own dhyana on it. To purify that knowledge, only then we will have a courage actually to do something differently. Or we will never do. We generally understand it and nod our head and we leave it at that. Because that it will not go in. So that's what Jnana Dhyanam Visishyate. Now the question is, why did Krishna say Dhyanat Karma Palatyaga? Because if you don't do Karma Palatyaga, which is what he is saying anyway here, if you don't do Karma Palatyaga, your mind will never be at peace to do anything that you are talking so far. This is the basic necessary condition to do anything. If your mind is not at peace, what are you going to do? You can neither acquire knowledge, jnana, your abhyasa will be very distracted, your jnana will be very contrived and half-baked, your dhyana will be impossible. That track of Abhyasa, Jnana, Dhyana, which is a logical track, requires a precondition. That precondition is Shanti. If mind is not at peace, nothing is possible. That comes only through karma palatyaga. That's why in the previous things, it may look as though it is inferior, it is not. Here he is clarifying it. Unless you prepare your mind for antakarana shuddhi, none of the progress leading you to these higher forms of Saguna upasana, which is Ekarupa to Anekarupa, and then eventually going to Arupa and all, will never work. So that is coming very clearly here. That's why this karma palatyaga is a central piece in Bhagavad Gita. Yajnata karma, lokan anyatra karma bandhana, 9th shloka in chapter 3, great shloka. Tasmat karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. You take your hands out of this karma pala, it will finish you off, which you are not understanding at all. And taking karma pala is not means, since I have no pala, I will not do any work. These are all very wrong understanding of this idea. It means don't get bothered. So, tyagat shantir anantaram. Which is what is. In other words, that's why, na karmana na prajaya danena tyake naike amritatvam anashuhu. It's a great Shruti Vakya. It says, na karmana, na prajaya, not by doing work, not by progeny. Right? Danena, na danena. Not with more money you will get amritatva. Tyagena. Palatyaga. Karma palatyaga. It's a great virtue. Tyagena eke amritatvam anashuhu. That's what the Vedantic statement is. That is what is being implied. Na karmana na prajaya danena tyakena eke amritatvam anashuhu. In other words, what are these prescriptions actually leading? They are leading to the pillars of bhakti. What are those pillars of bhakti? First pillar of bhakti is Krishnarpana buddhi. He says, can you reach a stage where I am very engaged in the world? In the office, in the family, in the society, in a common place, whatever has to be done, I am very engaged. But I am very engaged, but I am doing it as nothing but offering to the Lord. That's what in chapter 18 there's a beautiful sloka. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. He finally comes to that conclusion. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. You offer all your work the day you have reached the pinnacle of work. And what is that? Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. You reach the pinnacle of siddhi. That will come if you practice this very diligently. So, Krishnarpana buddhi. And why do you need it? Because moment we cover it, we will actually, this is the problem bothering us. Kim kartavyam, kim akartavyam. What I should do, what I should not do. We spend a lot of time, because what is in it for me, pala, so many things are there. So, it's a very complex algorithm. So, kartavya viveka will come. We will continue to say this is to be done. So we will not, as somebody was asking, we will not take bribe, we will come in a different way. What is to be kartavya, what is not to be kartavya, that viveka will develop. This will bestow us that kind of a, sense of discrimination. Value conflicts will start coming down. And it will lead us to prasada svikara. Prasada svikara buddhi. That everything is what God gives. The day we are able to go near it, we will suddenly find that this raga, dvesha and all those become a distant part. We will never be less active. We will act, on the contrary, if you go by what people have done, we will be more active. We'll know, because otherwise how do you explain a person at the age of 32? You take Vivekananda, you take Shankaracharya, you take Swami Ramatirtha. The amount of thing they did in 4-5 years, you need probably 100 years for the best topmost CEO, Fortune 500 CEO, you bring him, you need 100 years. That's the amount of work they have done. Where did it come from? Because they have this Krishnarpana buddhi and this Prasada buddhi. That will uncover a great deal of effort, energy from you. That seems to be the story. So, Prasada Svikaraha, which will lead to the, Pala Samasvikara. Let it be pala or apala. Take it. The equanimity of taking pala or apala, that will come. So all these prescriptions are what? These are prescriptions for antakarana shuddhi. That is the threshold in which nirguna will happen. So we are worried about how do you reach the threshold. Once you reach the threshold, everything breaks. There is no room for any discussion, nothing. So this nirguna and all, there is nothing to discuss. Because once you reach that stage, there is nothing. If the whole world is one, where is the second entity to discuss? Where is the second entity to compare? Where is the second entity to develop dvesha? There is no concept of parajaya, nothing. If the whole thing becomes one, where is the room for anything? It is all silence. That's why we can't talk that. We can talk all that which can lead us to that gate. Once the gate is open, correct? So in the next 7 shlokas, shloka 13 to 20, 13 to 19, he talks about bhaktas lakshanas. In other words, if we practice these, what are some of the things that will happen to us? There are some nice things. The nearest parallel you will see to this description is chapter 2, shloka 54 to 72, Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha. So some of the things that Krishna talked about, that you will see a parallel. He says he is a person with Sthita Prajna, unshaking Prajna. He will not be shattered that easily. Such kind of a description he gives. We'll quickly see some of them. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karunayevacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukkaha sukkaha kshami. This is the first shloka. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma dridanischayah mayyarpita manobuddhihi yo mad bhaktaha same priyaha. Yasman no dvijate lokaha lokanne dvijate chayah harsha amarsha baya udvegaihi. Harsha amarsha baya udvegaihi. There are 4 of them there. Harsho marsha bayodvegaihi muktaha. He is released from 4 things. Yaha saha sachame priyaha. Right? Then anapekshaha suchirdakshaha udasino gatavyataha sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhaktaha same priyaha. So there are nice attributes here. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, I talked about it. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, that is a hallmark of progressing in bhakti. If you can't develop this adveshta, first we have to develop adveshta around us, adveshta around even our enemies, people whom we don't like, adveshta around our animal kingdom, adveshta around our plant kingdom. It's a much bigger circles. So he says sarva bhutanam. And if you develop more and more adveshta, maitra and karuna are natural fallouts of that. But where is this leading? This is actually leading to that oneness. This is the path to oneness. Oneness is not something which will come tomorrow. Oneness comes only when you increase the circle. In fact, in one of the earlier Bhagavad Gita classes, I talked about circle. Ramadita is a great mathematician. Use circles. He said a circle with a unit circle with a small diameter, he said it's very crooked. The curvature is very crooked. You draw another circle, the curvature becomes little better. He says a circle, a line is nothing but an infinite circle. The crookedness is gone. And what does it mean? The epicenter is moving. In infinite circle, the distance between the center of the circle to the tangent is infinite. Whereas in a small circle, the distance is very... We all start, he even names, he gives 4 circles and names that. People are he says, you know how people start? They are selfish about themselves, not even their wife and children. That is circle 1. Very nicely he talks in one lecture. Then what is the second circle? My family. Not my brother, not my father, not my relatives, nothing. That is a circle. Now what has happened? You have moved a little from the center. Because the circle has become bigger now. You can draw a figure and then you understand this very easily. So what he is saying is this, then this, then this, then he says there is an infinite circle. This is the center. Right? From the center, the distance is very less. It increases for the second circle because it is a bigger circle. Then the radius increases. And the radius for a line, which is nothing but an infinite circle, is also infinite. That is what he is talking. He is saying, increase your circle of neighborhood. A place where you become Advaita Sarva Bhutanam. That is the circle with infinite radius. No crookedness also. There is no concavity. There is no concavity in this circle. It's flat. The Ramatita's lecture is very good. Maybe one of the days I'll scan and send that. Some of his talks are so wonderful. I already marked some of them I'll take and probably put it into our reading list. Very interesting perspective to understanding certain things. So, nirmamo nirahankara, this mamakara and ahankara is a very big villain. I have a couple of slides I will show you. Samadukkaha, sukkaha, kshami. We have talked many of these things earlier. Santushtaha, satatam. This yogi is santushtaha, satatam. And yatatma, tridanischaya, he is not wavering. Chittasya, fixing has happened. Only then, only a wavering mind will keep on going back and forth. This is a dridanischaya. That's what it is. Mayarpita manobuddhi. All these will lead to the buddhi. These are all leading to those 4 shlokas in a way. Your mind is not wavering, so therefore you can fix your mind. Manaha mayeva, that's what he said in the 9th shloka. That is coming back here. Right? This is a very interesting idea. Yasmat is Panchami Vibhakti. From that person, Panchami Vibhakti is apadana, you separate. Right? Yasmat means from this person, which means this person and others. That's why you use a Panchami Vibhakti. Yasmat na advijate lokaha. Who is a true bhakta? The world is not afraid of him. He will not instill a sense of fear in the world, on others in the world. That is called yasmat na dvijate lokaha. Lokat na advijate chayaha. He is also not worried, he is not afraid of the world. So it's a very fickle balance. I am not afraid of anybody in the world, nobody in the world is afraid of me. Doing both is not easy. People in power and people in position belong to one category. Here he is talking about both. Can you be in a position? I saw a very close living example of this property in what is called Dr. V, who founded Aravind Eye Hospital, one of the greatest healthcare institutions in the world which exists in this country. In Madurai, so I am from there, he was a living example of this sloka. I asked the nurses, once I went and I asked the nurses, can you describe Dr. V? How will you describe him? If they had known this shloka, they would have actually quoted this shloka. They said, if I have to say what they said, I have to use this. They said, sir, we are not afraid of, roughly that's what they said. We are not afraid of them, he is afraid of nobody. Something like that they said. Such fine gentleman. That is what, the character becomes so fine. It's polish, it becomes so fine. Those are the properties Krishna is talking about. And if somebody is like that, what will happen? He will lose 4 kind of, things that we all go through. One is harsha, too much of this enthusiasm, right? Amarsha, right? Some kind of anxiety, or fear or something. Bhaya, udvegehi. These are anxiety. There are different versions of that negative feeling. Muktaha. Because if you don't have it, many of these will recede. These feelings will recede. He says, harsha, amarsha, bhaya, udvegehi, muktaha. Then he says, anapekshaha, right? Shuchihi, very clean. Clean is not physical cleanness. His mind is becoming pure. Antakarana shuddhi will happen in that person. He is embodiment of cleanliness in mind, not just the physical cleanliness. Shuchi of that kind. Dakshaha is dexterity with which he does work will become very, very superior. When Hanuman crosses Sri Lanka, goes to Sri Lanka, the first sarga of Sundarakanda, there are 4 properties Valmiki says about Hanuman. He says Smriti, Dhriti, Matir, Darkshyam. 4 properties he says. What is great about Valmiki Ramayana is while the story is going, in between, I have in fact marked the whole thing in my book. So good. In between, there are shlokas which are real, the pearls of wisdom. So Hanuman is just crossing. And in passing, Valmiki makes one statement. He says, a person who has these 4 properties, he will achieve anything in life. So it makes you think, what is he trying to say? Like that there are shlokas. In between there will be shlokas like that. That's the greatest Valmiki. He says, when he talks about Hanuman, he says, this person will succeed. He is just crossing. First Sarga, he is only taken the flight. At that time, Valmiki says, this man has 4 properties. Because of these 4 properties, then he generalizes this. He says, anybody who has these 4 properties, they have to execute a work with absolute precision and success. That's what the shloka is. There he says, Dhritihi, Smritihi, Matihi, Darkshyam. That is this, what he is talking about here. Daksha Bhavaha is Darkshyam. Your dexterity to do work, execute work, executional excellence. Your bhakta will get it. Because he is not distracted with other things. So that's what it is coming to. Sarvaramba Parityagi. He will give up this, what is in it for me, in everything that he does. Sarva Aramba means all beginnings, which means all work. Parityagi. He says, what is in it for me, I am not bothered. I will enjoy the joy, I will have the joy of doing the work. That kind of things that he talks about. The most important thing is Nirmamo Nirahankara. If people operate with the domain of Ahankara and Mamakara, I am doing and this is mine. What is mine? The work is mine, the results are mine, the success is mine. Failure comes, they say it is not mine. They will blame the God. Success only they will claim. Failure, they say the world is unfair, God is unfair, I promise him 100 coconuts, this poor God did not even want that. 100 things they will say. That's what happens when you have Mamakara and Ahankara. When good things comes, you will forget the whole world, you say, I did it. Bad things comes, you throw everything on every possible. My the daughter distracted me, my boss shouted at me, that's why it happened. The bus, there was a traffic jam, that's why it happened. My mood was upset. We will throw everything outside us when there is a failure. When there is a success, it's a force of gravity which will attract everything into you. Anyway, so we engage in all activities in the world with ahankara. That's why Krishna is saying nirmamo nirahankara. We'll find out samamo sahankara what will happen. Then we'll understand nirmamo nirahankara. Let's see what happens. Let's say the activity was a success. Correct? And when the activity is success, as I just now told you, this I will grow even taller. I will disown everybody's efforts. Oh, it's because of me. I thought day and night about this. I put my best efforts. I should not be saying, but let me still say. Which is as good as saying. So all that can happen. Right? And now you'll be armed with this success. Oh, I'll do some more work now. Correct? With a similar perspective, I will be able to deliver it. It's my extraordinary power. God has given me, some people may say, but generally that's not required. It's my work. So let me engage in more, I will take more responsibilities, I will deliver. We'll go on that path. This is one possibility. Second possibility is that it failed. Moment it failed, the same person will be actually crestfallen. Correct? That's why he said sama dukkha sukha swastaha samaloshtasma kanchanaha mana apamana yostulins. 14th chapter it comes. Matra sparsas kaunte in 2nd chapter. Sitoshna sukha dukkataha titiksha. Titiksha will not be there. When you have too much of ahankara and mamakara, you will not have titiksha. So what will happen? Depression, fear, hate, envy, mental tension, blame also I have put etc. Correct? And one can destroy oneself, one can destroy the world also. They go mad because they are not able to take it. They create so much of vitiate the whole atmosphere. This is one possibility. Now there are some missing links. I love connect everything to destroy. That's what I want to do. So let me connect the balance boxes so that everything will lead to destroy with ahankara and mamakara. Now another thing can happen. So this is, people will say, no, you are very pessimistic. I agree with you. This is a pessimistic route. Let's go through the optimistic route. Optimistic route is, okay, this time I failed, right? Let me engage more and more. I am going to succeed next time. But please understand, whether you came this route or this route, two things will happen. First of all, if your tolerance for failure is X, it will become X minus delta X now. Because in this route, you can't take any more failure, that's why it is minus delta X. In this route, your tolerance will come down because you cannot take it, because you are nothing but embodiment of success. How can you take failure? That is the reason that delta will come here. So delta will always be there. The reason is different. The reason here is that I am already, bankrupt with success, so I can't afford to take any more failure. Here it is, I am so successful, slightest failure I can't take. In both ways the tolerance will come down, which means it is a question of how many chakra you will go, finally you have to land here only. It's very logical, no? It all depends on how many times you have to go through this path. Finally, all these are happening because of this. If this is not there, the box will never be like this. It is only because of this. All that I am saying is your propensity to fail will only increase. It will not come down. That is the reason why nirmama nirahankara is very important. It will be draining your energy. This is how it drains our energy. Too much of ahankara and mamakara will drain our energy. One more, then we will try to. Because these 3 shlokas. Yona krishyati na dveshti na shochati na kankshati. Shubha Shubha Parityagi Bhaktiman Yasame Priyaha. All these world of dualities he has put. He said he doesn't concerned, get too much concerned. Shocha. He is not na shochati. Na kankshati. His expectation lists are not to be. Expectation in the sense, you can build expectation. This expectation is all about your ability to take results when it is different from your expectation. That's the meaning of this word. It's not don't set targets. I am all for setting targets all the time in life, but develop grace to take when things are coming, whatever comes. Put your effort, set your target. But when results come, have grace. With folded hands, take it. People who are not able to take it are people who have kanksha. Others have na kankshati. Setting target is not kanksha. You can't translate English like that. Shubha Ashubha Parityagi. That's why, because when this is not there, you will give Shubha and Ashubha. That duality will disappear. Because you are neither your Shocha nor Kanksha. Right? Bhaktiman Same Priyaha. Sama Shatrau Mitrecha. Where is this oneness, where is the inclusivity will come? Inclusivity will not come anyways except these 2 shlokas. Without this shloka, you will never become inclusive. You will always be exclusive. The only practical way to become inclusive is Sama Shatraucha Mitrecha Tata Mana Apamanayoho Sitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Samaha Sangavarjitaha. Take yourself away from all these and take as things come. That's the way you will become more inclusive in life. Tulya Nindatma Stutir Maunihi Santushto Yena Kena Chitta. Yadrichalabha Santushtaha is what he said in chapter 4, some 19th or 20th sloka. He said Yadrichalabha Santushtaha. That pleasure you get by getting results for which you didn't work. You worked and then the results came. That pleasure is very high. Setting targets and fixing the whole world and getting results is a very tiring way of getting that results. It is worth a party. Next day morning you will go back sulk. It will not remain with you for too long. So he says, Yena Kena Chit. Bhagavad Prasada, if you take it, you are an embodiment of energy, notwithstanding what happens. Santushtaha Yena Kena Chit. Aniketaha Stiramatihi. Aniketaha, there is no single refuge. They become more broad-based. They don't attach themselves to one reference and one place and this one. All these are ways of becoming broader and broader. Bhakta is one who has to become a little broader in many ways. So these 7 shlokas very nicely actually puts all these different ways by which a bhakta can become those 5 things which I talked about. That is what is coming through these 7-8 shlokas. I collected all of them and put it in one box. I'll show you that box and that's it. I have taken the ulta of all of them. For example, he said Shuchihi, I said Ashuchihi. Na Shochati, I say Shochaha. These are all negative of those shlokas. Because you will see a pattern. The one way to read the shloka is one way. Look at, there is a nice pattern coming here from these 7 shlokas. What is happening, you see? If you have too much of asanga, attachment, right? And apeksha, expectations and so on, which will develop into akanksha, right? If you do all that, you know what will happen? Asantushtaha kenachitapi, not yena kenachit. You do anything, you will not be satisfied. That is the Sanskrit meaning, na? Asantushtaha kenachitapi. Whatever you have, you will not be satisfied because your lists are all right, and because of that you will have shocha and dvesha. These are all the words you found in all those. Expectation. Expect that only good things will happen to me, and all that kind of a thing. There is a set of expectation and my intolerance to see anything other than that. That is akanksha actually. So all these will lead where? It will lead to this. Moment this shocha and dvesha comes, the tulya and sama will go. So I have taken the negative of all those attributes we talked about here. He said harsha, amarsha, bhaya, udvegehi, muktaha na piditaha. I put the negative of it here. Why it will happen? Because of this it will happen. This arrow leads you to here. Correct? Asamaha mana apamana yoho, not samaha. Asamaha. Right? It's not tulya ninda stutihi. Atulya ninda stutihi. Akara is the easy way of making it negative in Sanskrit. Just add a to all of them. Right? Not samaha shatrau mitrecha. Asamaha shatrau mitrecha. Right? Asamaha sitoshna dukkeshu. Not gatavyataha. Agatavyataha. The fear has not gone. And hrishya bhavaha. The expectation puts you a very energy which is making you into the domain of expectation. That anxiety. All that. All of them will lead you to ashuchi. You will not be a mauni. And your nischaya will never be dhrida. The mana will become more chanchala. So I have taken all of them and put the negative of it. I have shown, instead of showing the photo, I am showing the negative. And why is all this happening? Because of this. Nirmamo nirahankara is what he said. This is the villain which is actually orchestrating all these feelings. This is what Krishna is saying. All these feelings are orchestrated by this villain. If you can understand it and work around it, many of these can soften. I don't know whether it will disappear, it will soften. If it softens, our road on bhakti is a little more easy. That's why he said, Abhyakta sakta chetam gatihi dukkha. With this kind of thing, what is Nirguna Upasana we are talking? Get the Antakarana Shuddhi. And you reach such a level of Antakarana Shuddhi that Nirguna is a very logical explosion of all these will happen one day, and that's the end of it. So that's why Krishna discouraged talking about it. He said, let's talk about all these, it will lead you there. So that is what Bhakti Yoga is. With that we will close this. There is one last sloka which we will see next class. Om Tassaditi. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dwadashodhyaya. With this the two triplets are over. Tat Padartha and the Tvam Padartha. The last triplet is Asi. How to become that. So he is now going to introduce very lofty ideas now, because we need to connect all of them there. 13 is supposedly the toughest chapter because it's philosophically at a very high plane. Because if you have to become, you have to tread into much higher domains. Anyway, we will see. We have the Bhagavad Kripa with us. We will keep seeing and understand it in our own way. Continue in the next class.
So what are the four attributes we discussed?
This same sloka is said in simple Kannada words.
Which book is that?
Mankutimana Kagga. DVG is Kannada.
Thank you.
Shastri.
Yes.
Yeah.